Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We do have board members Deborah Napper and Kim Irby on the phone. So that approves. I'll turn to our attorney, Jill Wilson, to walk us through our agenda item, the consideration of appointment of legal counsel.
There we go. Board members, as I'm certain you are aware, on September 19th, at our next regular meeting, a general statute that was recently passed has put in place the ascension to a seat, or at least to the nomination process by the Executive Committee of the Republican Party. And we have also received on September 4th, 2023, a letter from counsel for Mr. Goebel claiming that the statute nominating Mr. Logan is unconstitutional. Here's where I am, and so I want you all to consider my recommendation. I need to be your board lawyer, and we need to run a school system. And this school system has 70,000 kids who are counting on you to continue to make good decisions for them. This is not your fight. This is not you're not in a position, neither the constitutional challenge by Mr. Goebel nor the legislation passed gives you the authority to be the decider. And so I want to continue to be your board attorney and to give you advice on that issue. And I would like you to appoint counsel to advise you on how to sort out the other issue. And I would strongly recommend that you appoint the firm of Pointer Spruill and Eddie Spees and Caroline Mackey, who are very experienced election lawyers. It doesn't, at the end of the day, you are not going to pick between these two gentlemen. This is a dispute between those two parties, and you're just a school board trying to run a school system. And so I think you need independent counsel who can advise you and deal with those issues. And I have talked to that firm and gotten them to agree to work at my hourly rate, which, as you know, is a pittance of what firms like that generally charge. I think it was but they're interested in this issue from an election issue. It's an interesting issue. It is not easily resolved, and I need them to steer you through it. So my recommendation is that you hire the firm of Pointer Spruill and Eddie Spees and Caroline Mackey in particular to advise you through this issue.
Thank you. Linda?
As you said, it's not our fight, okay? And it is also that we are supposed to understand that legislative law is constitutional and assumed constitutional until proven differently. Is that not true?
Well, you have several ideas colliding here, unfortunately. This is a very complicated area of law. If you'll recall, when Trudy Wade protested her loss of her election, she stayed in that seat for 2 years under the law. The law is very complicated here, and I am not comfortable advising you and continuing to advise you on other issues. I think we need to have outside counsel do that.
Well, the issue there is that was an election, and the election was questioned, the results of the election. This is an appointee, which is a totally different thing. Also, it is legislative law. Neither the Guilford County Schools nor this board has any authority in it.
But you would effectively be asserting your authority in it if you were to choose.
No, we would be obeying the law.
There's law. It's
Excuse
not
me,
that
if
simple.
you want to express your support, we'd ask you
Yeah,
to do it
it's
this
not
way.
that simple. I'm just telling you, there is law that would suggest lots of things in this area. There is law that suggests that if there is a contested seat, that the seat holder remains in power. I just don't think it's up to you, any of us.
Well, I
to
think if we
decide.
had followed the law, for the intent of the law to begin with, we wouldn't be in this position. So for me to hire a law and spend more money moving on something that should have never happened, I have a problem. Because this has been going on. We have, the District 3 does not have the representation that they requested, nor did they have any public input into the individual that was seated. There was absolutely zero. So we continue with this in that the District 3 people and public and residents of District 3 have had zero representation of who they choose and had input. They should have had input. It's their leader. It's their representation, all right? Nowhere, you please inform me, at what point the public got to weigh in on Mr. Goble's appointee?
That's not the issue before us.
Well, it's a major issue for me, and we continue going down this road, and clearly the executive committee, the District 3 executive committee, the residents of District 3 continue to say they want a voice and who is their representation, and Mr. Goble is not it. You have a law, a session law, that states, and for, how do I say this? For people to, for the legislator to feel they have to go that far to get the public the representation that they believe they want is a shame, okay, that we're here. We shouldn't be in court, okay? So for me to agree, but if someone in here can tell me one place that the District 3 residents in any way, shape, or form had any input into Mr. Goble being seated, I'd like to hear it. Because they are the ones being impacted here. They are the ones that this law, that got and pushed for this law to be passed. All right, not me. I had nothing to do with who was selected for District 3. I never went to a meeting associated with District 3 because it was not my position, okay? It is the residents of District 3. So I'm having a real hard time with this, that we're going to drag it another level because we are not abiding by session law that is considered constitutional until proven. Mr. Goble's fight is with the General Assembly, not us. Mr. Goble should be getting his lawyer go against the General Assembly, not us. We have no fight in this. We obey the law, all right?
Yes.
And that's what we do.
And you are going to employ an attorney who will tell you what the law is.
Chrissy?
First of all, I second everything Linda said. She just said everything that was on my mind. My biggest question at this point is I would like more information about this law firm that's being recommended. I have a lot of trouble voting for something that I don't have background information on, and we did ask for information ahead of this meeting and did not receive it. So I would like to know more about that firm, what the cost is to the schools. I have a lot of trouble spending taxpayer money on another attorney when we already have a school board attorney. And so
Excuse me, I'm just gonna say this one more time. If you want to, if you agree and you want to support what's being said, please do that by doing this.
A different lawyer, which if I didn't make clear, I will make clear again. We have to know how to proceed. And at this juncture, we need legal advice on how to proceed. That's what that lawyer will be doing, or I would be doing, but I would like not to do it. I would like for you to have independent counsel to do that. Pointer Spruill is one of the foremost law firms in the state. They are probably the most experienced law firm in election law. Some of you who may have attended the hearing on the bond with the state election board. Pointer Spruill was active in that matter. They represent the city of High Point in some current things. They've represented Guilford County in some current things. They're probably the most experienced and well-respected election law firm in the state. And they have agreed to work for my hourly rate.
So I have a follow-up question, if
Sure.
I may. If we move forward with this, the next board meeting is a week from today, and that is according to the law when the appointment is supposed to
Right.
happen.
Right.
So what kind of communication would the board be receiving in between now and then, updating us on the status of interpretation of this law?
That's hard for me to answer since you haven't employed them yet, but
Hypothetically.
they will move with all deliberate speed to get a process in place.
And the
That's all I
entire,
can say. I mean, we haven't employed them yet, so I don't know, because I don't know where they're gonna wind up.
and the entire board would be kept aware of any decisions being made and
Sure.
information?
Sure. And honestly, they represent all of you. They represent the entity of the Board of Education. And Mr. Goebel, in light of what the subject matter is, I'd ask you to recuse yourself on this vote.
Okay. I have heard over and over again that we can't remove one person, but we can remove this whole board. Okay? Now, my question is, are we willing to take that risk? Do we not get the message that the leadership in the General Assembly sees us as a rogue board that is not following the laws? Okay? They
You
would.
don't even know what their advice is yet, Linda.
Well, I'm just saying, perception is, but here's my view. We've got a law. You have a law, and you have to presume it's constitutional. That is the way you handle session law. What we are saying is we're going to assume it's not constitutional, and we're going to drag this down the road. Is that not, I mean, by getting this lawyer, we're saying we don't believe this law is constitutional.
We are not saying that, actually. We are not saying anything. The board is not the decider, as I have said
I agree.
several times. It is not up to the board to determine the appropriate next step. We are going to hire attorneys who are going to give the board advice on what the appropriate process is for the next step.
All right, when you tell me it's not the board to decide, all right, then that tells me you follow the law. All right, if we follow the law, then Mr. Goebel is not seated.
There's more than one law at issue.
Okay, well, I've made my point. I think we should follow the law, but we should have followed the law all the way along, and we wouldn't be here. But I've made my point.
Well, we did follow the law along the way, and you might not like the results, but in July of 2017, there was a vacant seat on this board held by a Democrat, and the Democratic Party made a recommendation for the board to vote on. How did you vote?
I voted no because it was a conflict
Doesn't
of
matter.
interest. Yes,
Doesn't
it
matter.
does matter.
You voted no.
You can
And
vote.
you did
It's
not
not because
change
it was
your
a
vote.
political view. You voted Mr. Goebel down because of his political views.
No.
Because that was it.
That's-
Darlene, and it wasn't just me, it wasn't like Republicans against Democrats, okay? Darlene also felt it was a conflict of interest. If he was a sex offender, you have a right to vote him down. If he was unqualified, you have a right to vote him down. You don't have a right to vote him down because you don't like his political views.
You felt like it was a conflict of interest that was not held by the board. You had the right to vote how you felt, and the rest of the board did as well. So when in a democracy, when minority rights are considered, but majority rules, except when people don't like the decisions that are made. The board had the right and the authority and the obligation and the duty to make the decisions it has made. District 3 representatives did not elect Mr. Logan. He was appointed by a party. There have been people that have come to this podium for the last 9 months from District 3 supporting the decision that the board made. The board could have, at that time, when the time had lapsed, appointed a Democrat. This board could have done that. And we didn't, because we did respect that it was a Republican that held that seat. So I'm sorry if you don't like how this has happened or the outcome of it, but the board has followed the law. So we're here, is there a motion to accept to hire the appointment of legal counsel?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll take a vote. Betty?
Yes.
Alan?
Yes.
Linda? Chrissy? You have
No.
to.
I don't have to. I don't have the information that we requested.
What's that, Jill?
You don't have the authority to abstain. Would you like me to give you her bio?
Chrissy?
No.
Deborah? Betty? I'm sorry, Kim? And Dina, yes. So Jill, what do we do about this Linda's no vote? You have to have permission
Give her
to
a minute,
abstain.
let her read it, and maybe that will help her make a decision.
You know, when we pulled the trick on April 4th, what I should have done is stood up and walked out, and I made a mistake, all right? But I will vote no at this time.
Thank you. It passes by a vote of 5-2.